Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have an 11 game slate here on DraftKings and FanDuel. This slate is pretty huge, and there's a ton of injuries. We got teams that have 3 and 4 players out at once, including starters. It's just going to be a rough slate because of that. I'm playing pretty light today. I'm probably going to play just some small tournaments, stuff like that. Maybe a little bit of cash games on both sides, but not much, not a whole lot. Don't want to risk too much because I feel like it's going to be there's going to be a ton of value, and so it's going to be hard to even build big lineups without having some super expensive dudes in there just as fillers. So let's go ahead and get into the injury report. We've got the Clippers with Wall, Morris, Powell, and Kennard all out. For the Magic, Carter Jr., Suggs, Harris, and Okeke are out. For the Hornets, Ball, Hayward, and Smith Jr. are out. For the Nets, Simmons is out. For the Hawks, Collins and Hunter are out. For the Lakers, Davis is questionable and LeBron is probable. I do think Davis is more likely to be out since he kind of quit and then started after the start of the game yesterday. For the Raptors, Achua and Porter are out. For the for the Pistons, Cunningham is out. For the Pelicans, Ingram is out and Jones is doubtful and Graham is questionable. For the Wizards, Beal, Wright, and Hachimura are out. For the Bulls, Caruso is questionable. For the Pacers, Halliburton, Turner, and McConnell are all questionable. Duarte is out. For the T-Wolves, Towns is out. For the Grizzlies, Bane is out. For the Warriors, Curry, Wiggins, and Green are all out. That's Draymond Green. For the Jazz, Conley is questionable. And for the Suns, Cam Johnson is out. Craig is questionable. And Chris Paul is probable. So we got a ton of injuries today. That's really going to affect a lot as we get close to the slate, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that injury report. If you want to check out our Discord, you'll see that we have injury news that updates in the moment on the Discord here. The link for that is in the description below. Also, some pretty cool people in here, so come check that out. Let's get into the players I do like today. So you guys see for DraftKings here, I have Jordan Poole and Kuminga from Golden State in my lineup. With the 3 starters for the Warriors out, I think both these guys are going to be starting and should have plenty of good upside here. Now, Kuminga is maybe not going to start, but we'll have to wait and see. But he's been playing really well when Draymond Green's out, even in somewhat limited minutes, and he's almost minimum priced here, so he's somebody to take a look at. And then Poole, he plays really good anytime he starts, and his price point is still a little too cheap for his potential, especially with all the guys out today. So I think those guys are great. Then we'll look at Jalen Brunson here for the Knicks. Now he has this kind of a tough matchup against Atlanta, but he's been playing pretty solid lately, and he's one of the few guys on the Knicks that are pretty consistent with minutes. Obviously, the last 5 games that's not been true, but he's been pretty good most of the season, and his price has actually come down a little bit, so it makes him a little bit more viable. And I do think he's good here on this particular slate. Then we'll look at D'Angelo Russell, who Russell here for Minnesota. He's a little bit too cheap for what he's been doing with Towns out, and I like to see him continue that. Obviously, his price has come up, but he's still a good price and below what he started the season with and stuff like that. So I think he's in a pretty good spot here against Indiana, who's one of the worst teams defensively on the slate. Then we have Jordan. I already talked about Jordan Poole. Klay Thompson is supposedly going to play today, so we're going to have to definitely make sure and see that he is. But if he does play, he's way too cheap with all the guys out, and he should have a bigger aspect of the offense in this particular game. And it's a nice little plus matchup for him as well. Monte Morris for Washington looks like a really decent play today with Beal out. He's been playing pretty consistent most of the season, but his price is somewhat difficult because it's usually over 5,000. But with the Beal out and a couple other guys, that gives him some upside. And then Jalen Noel for Noel for Minnesota. He has been playing pretty solid with Towns out, and I think he will continue that. Now he's going to get in the mid-20s minutes, but with his price point, it's still viable. In the last 4 games, he's done really solid. And then DiVincenzo for Golden State. If he ends up starting, he's a player that I really like today. I almost side him as a what you call it, a lock here, but I just want to wait and see if he ends up starting. So that's what I have there. Pascal Siakam as a forward for $9,800. He's been playing extremely good the last couple games. His minutes are finally maxing out again, and he's definitely a guy that gets all the sorts of peripheral stats, so I think he's in a great spot. Against the Lakers today, who may not have Anthony Davis, Kyle Kuzma is also interesting today at $8,100. He's been playing inconsistent but solid when he gets a full complement of minutes. He's been inconsistent otherwise, but he's got a good matchup today, and they got plenty of guys out, which is going to give him some advantage. And then we got Denny Abdij. Sorry for butchering your name. Now he had a couple off games, but now with some of the injuries, he's going to have to be back playing more and be more part of the offense. And so I like him at this price point. Kyle Anderson also looks pretty interesting today for Minnesota. He's been playing pretty well with Towns out, and I like to see him continue that. His price has come up a little bit. That makes him a little bit tougher to roster, but he's still decent. Same kind of goes for Jalen Johnson here for Atlanta. He should be in another situation to get 25 plus minutes. He's been playing really solid the last couple games, and his price has popped up a little bit, but I still think he's viable on the slate. He has got double-double potential. Then we'll look at Robert Covington. Now, honestly, I could have included just about any Clipper here. Here's the thing. They've got a bunch of dudes out and a bunch of guys. We got to see who's going to end up starting, and whoever ends up starting is going to be viable. But Covington's played really solid lately, and he should be good to roster with the guys out today. And then Nick Claxton here for the Brooklyn Nets. He looks pretty interesting today. He's been playing up and down mostly, but more up than down. His price point isn't super ideal, but there's not a whole lot of great options at center today, and he's got a nice plus matchup against Charlotte. Steven Adams looks pretty interesting today with Memphis. Now, the only catch here with him is sometimes his minutes lack, and sometimes he doesn't become a focal point of the offense. But he does have rebounding potential in this one. Should be a lot of jump shots and stuff, so I do like him in this matchup. And then Mitchell Robinson, he's been playing pretty well for the Knicks, and he's got a nice plus matchup here against the Hawks, who have a couple guys out. And his price point is too cheap for what he can do, so I do like him quite a bit here. That's what I have for DraftKings. Let's get it on to FanDuel here. Same thing over here. I'm not going to play super heavy, but Jordan Poole looks pretty interesting today. He's been playing really good when he starts and gets plenty of minutes, and so I expect him to do well in this matchup. Then we'll look at Monte Morris for Washington. He's another guy that I think is in a really good spot here for Washington, especially with Beal out. He should get some more upside in this matchup. And then Kyrie Irving, as long as Simmons out, his minutes have come up to max 40 and his usage is up. I expect him to hopefully 5x at this price point on the slate and probably do even better. Klay Thompson's also a guy I like here, $6,200. He's really good if he ends up playing and isn't restricted in his capacity, but we'll have to wait and see to make certain. D'Angelo Russell's played really solid with Towns out, and I look for that to continue here. Markelle Fultz, he has only played a couple games, but his minutes keep getting bigger, and as long as he can get over 30 minutes in this game, then he should be able to 5x easily in this matchup. Kuminga, for Golden State, as long as he ends up starting, he's in a pretty good spot. I expect him to play a lot and play well. Kyle Kuzma, he's a little pricey for what I like, but he's got some good upside. He's been playing pretty solid lately, as long as he's playing 35 or so minutes, and I think he's viable on the slate against Chicago, especially with injuries to the team. Avdija for Washington as well. His price is a little bit up, but he still has good upside with all the injuries to the Wizards. Porzingis also has some interesting upside here on FanDuel. Not so much on DraftKings. He's a little bit cheaper here. But he does have 50-point upside, so I do think he's viable on the slate with injuries. Then Siakam for Toronto. He's been playing really solid the last few games, and as his minutes have ramped back up due to his injuries, he's playing a full level now, and he definitely has big-time capacity in this matchup, especially with Davis likely sitting out. And then Kevin Durant, he looks interesting today. He's been playing pretty good lately. He's had some dust-ups on Twitter, but sometimes when that happens, he has big games afterwards, so I expect him to hopefully come out and have a big game today. Then we'll look at Mitchell Robinson for the Knicks. He's been playing pretty interesting for them, and he's got a nice plus matchup against the Hawks, who have some guys out. He does have tendency to have low minutes, so do keep that in mind, but he has got some upside today. Nick Claxton also looks pretty solid today against Charlotte. He's got a nice plus matchup here, and he's been playing pretty solidly as of late. And then Clint Capella looks interesting simply because he's got so many guys out. He has some upside in this matchup. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. And have a nice day, guys.